Welcome back. Welcome to the second part of It's Closer Than You Think. I hope that you've watched the first DVD or the first part of It's Closer Than You Think, because last year, October, November 2008, I recorded a DVD entitled It's Closer Than You Think, and on that DVD, I said that it was at the time that the financial crisis was just emerging in the world, and I explained that there were 4 things that were coming together at the time, which were leading to the possibility of the launch of the New World Order. I've had feedback from many of you right over the world, and I encourage that because we like to be able to know what's going on in various places around the world. If you'd like to contact me, do so directly on email, info@homebase.org.za. Many of the emails that have come back have been positive. Many of them have been confused, and many of them have been negative. People have said, you can't say these things, and you don't have any grounds on which to base your judgments. So what I decided to do is come back to the studio and record for you the update to the first part. This is now May 2009, and if you remember, if you've watched the DVD, you will remember that in the previous DVD I said, let's just see where we're going to be in January or February 2009. Let's see how things pan out and see what happens. Well, we're now in May already of 2009, and now we can look back in history and compare November to where we are now and see whether anything has happened. Just to recap the previous section of It's Closer Than You Think, do you remember the text word in Revelation 13? Where it spoke about the Antichrist? It said, and he, the Antichrist, causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Do you remember that discussion? Well, we had to go to the beast and say, please, Mr. Beast, could you tell me what your mark is? Remember we did that. Well, I would like to take you back to a graphic and show you. Do you remember what Jesus said? Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Ezekiel 20 says, moreover also I gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign, an oath between me and them, that they might know that I am the Lord that's sanctifying them. So the Lord gave us the Shabbat, the Sabbath oath, the oath, the signature or the identifying characteristic. He calls it his sign between him and his people. And it's the 4th commandment, as you can see on this graphic, that is a problem today. You can see that the 4th commandment has been chiseled away by satanic influences. You know, it's because the 4th commandment is God's seal, that's why Satan needs to remove it, because it proves his authority. And it's always amazing for me when I read the commandments to see how the one commandment that says, remember the Sabbath day, is the one commandment Christians want to forget. So where the Lord says, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, so the Pope says the same thing. He says, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. He says, Sunday is their mark of authority. The church is above the Bible, and this transference of Sabbath observance is proof of that fact. And the Pope demands respect for Sundays. So where the Lord's asking you for Sabbath worship, the Pope is saying, I want Sunday worship. And can you remember the colors that we were discussing? We were discussing certain elements about why the papacy would want this. Well, that's the question. The question is, why? Why would the papacy call for governments worldwide to institute a Sunday law? Well, would you remember? Why would the papacy call for governments worldwide to put in civil legislation about Sunday law? Do you remember we looked at Jesus' colors, and Jesus had 3 colors? And then we looked at the Antichrist, and he had 2 colors. Well, here's a graphic looking down inside St. Peter's Cathedral, down towards Bernini's Canopy. And you'll see the red and the scarlet. In other words, I beg your pardon, the purple and the scarlet. And you'll see the scarlet, the cardinals are even sitting in the form of the Baal Hadad, right? That sun symbol that I've explained over and over in my lectures. In the middle there where the altar is, that's where the Eucharist would be. That's where the Baal Hadad, the center would be of the Baal Hadad. So the colors of the Vatican, besides the white and the gold and the black, etc., the colors of the Vatican are exactly what they are according to the Bible, purple and scarlet. Now, 2 questions I have. Number 1, can you remember what color was missing? Can you remember it was the color blue? Now, everything that God has, Satan steals and he manipulates it for himself. And do you think Satan would be satisfied if Jesus, God's high priest, the Christ, has got 3 colors? Would Satan's high priest, the Antichrist, be satisfied with 2 colors? No, obviously not. So my question is, how is the Antichrist going to bring in the color blue? Do you remember what the blue stood for? It was for the obedience to the commandments of God. It was a symbol of obedience. So blue in the Bible is obedience to the commandments and the law of God. So if the papacy wants the blue, it's going to mean that he has to be subjective to the authority of God, which he can't do. So he cannot have the blue. But my question remains, how is he going to bring in the color blue? Do you remember blue laws? Well, I give you you can go and look in any encyclopedia you want, but I'm using a free encyclopedia, Wikipedia, that you can also go and have a look there. And you'll see that it says blue law. A blue law is a type of law designed to enforce moral standards, particularly the observance of Sunday as a day of worship or rest, and a restriction on Sunday shopping. Last time in the previous DVD, I actually asked you, go and have a look. Well, I'm actually bringing it to you now because that way it's easy. It's all on one DVD. So a blue law is a law governing restrictions on Sunday shopping, Sunday legislation, somehow to protect Sunday. Now, David Rockefeller had this quote, and he said, "This present window of opportunity during which a truly peaceful and interdependent world order might be built will not be open for too long. We are on the verge of a global transformation. All we need is the right major crisis, and the nations will accept the new world order." So what they need is the right major crisis. Now, how do they do that? That means they have to create the right crisis. If you want to make sure you get the right crisis, it means you have to create the right crisis. And if I take you to the the council, the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, you can see in the middle there is their slogan, Ordo ab Chaos, which means order out of chaos. There you can see the phoenix rising out of the ashes, which is the symbol of the order coming out of chaos. This is also the symbol of the coat of arms of South Africa, right? That comes from Hegel. Do you remember we discussed Hegelianism, the Hegel principle, which is you take thesis and you rub it against antithesis or antithesis. You rub them up and out comes synthesis. You take the blacks and you take the whites, you rub them together and out comes democracy. Well, that's what they did in South Africa, and that's what they do, ordo ab chaos. So they have to create the right chaos in order to manipulate the system to bring the right type of order. Now, I would like specifically for the South African audiences to give you some background before we look at the wider audience. Let's look at, well, we've just been through an election process in South Africa, and we have a new president coming in, Jacob Zuma, and it's critical that we have a look at what is the belief system. What does Jacob Zuma promote? Well, directly after 1944, certain elements started to come in which weren't there as openly as before. 1994 was the date that the white government handed over to the black government. Here's a quote from 2001, addressed by Deputy President Jacob Zuma, 18th of January 2001, and I'll highlight the words